Well, Amber, I'm so excited to welcome you to the podcast. I know we were talking a little bit before we pushed record, and I feel like you and I have a lot of things in common when it comes to health and family and movement. So I'm really excited to just have our chat today and have you share your story with my listeners and give a little dose of inspiration, and we'll get in and talk more about mindset and movement. So Amber, what led you to today where you're opening a fitness studio and you started out as a kindergarten teacher or first grade teacher? Wait, which was it?
I was both. I was kindergarten and
Oh,
first
it's
grade.
both. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm from Ohio. I have three kids, Declan, Crew, and Harlow, and I'm married to my high school sweetheart. So I always say that I was kind of that kid that like never knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. But I landed myself in an elementary classroom. So I did kindergarten and then I transitioned to first grade. And I had my first baby during that process of teaching. And I kind of had to make the decision of I couldn't find childcare when I was pregnant with my second kid. So I had to choose between teaching or staying home with the kids. And in that process, I had started an online business. And I always say it kind of started by accident. It was more so like something that was my hobby after having my first kid. I think as moms, we all know that like you try to find yourself after each kid and you need something that still gives you a sense of like you. So I started this apparel brand that was centered around motherhood. So I ended up staying home from teaching when I had my second kiddo, Crew. And I always say I stumbled into entrepreneurship kind of by accident. What became selling one graphic t-shirt ended up becoming this like mom squad of moms from all over the world that rallied together to share the beautiful parts of motherhood, the chaos of motherhood. Like it was really a beautiful thing. So I ended up staying home full time with my kids, but also trying to run this business. And I ended up having my third kiddo, Harlow, in the process. And after I had her, I feel like that is where my mindset shifted on so many things. One of which that was really significant was just how I viewed myself, how I viewed my body, and how I valued movement. So to make a long story short, I ended up going into a group fitness class, which was very scary and intimidating, but I did it. I became obsessed and it inspired me to teach that activity, but then also I want to open a studio. So that's what I've been working on is opening up a Lagree and a rhythm cycling studio. So I feel like it's just been a very big shift of things over the last 9 years. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's opening a studio is so exciting. I'm right there with you. We were chatting about that before. We're kind of in the same boat with that. It's a lot of excitement, a lot of unknowns, a lot of having to learn to go with the flow and what life kind of brings you when you're starting a new adventure. And I love how you said you feel like, entrepreneurship kind of just found you. And I think
Yeah.
I think that that's so important because I think so many times as moms, as women, if we're not, we've never maybe had a business before or something, you feel like, oh, maybe I can't do that because I don't know how to do it. But you've done it. I've seen so many other women have done it. I know people will look at me as a business owner and think, oh, I just know how to run a business. You guys, I am going to tell all of you that everything I've learned to do, we figure it out along the way. Like, yes, I've always had that like entrepreneur bug in my body, but because I've
Yeah.
kind of always had a
Yeah.
little business, like since I was little,
That was
but
me.
at the same
I was making
time,
those beaded lizards and I would take
yeah,
them to school, and sell them. And it was like, where did I lose that? Like, as I grew up, what made me lose that? Like, those were the things I enjoyed. And now I'm circling back when I'm 34 years old. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
yeah,
it's just crazy.
no, you're great. And the reason why I think this is so important to talk about is because I know there are those of you, those women listening, other moms that may feel like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to start. So I actually want to ask you that question, Amber. What was
Yeah.
that? Like, how did you go from saying, okay, I'm working a full-time job. Now I have a baby, but I'm going to do this little crafty making thing on the side just because I want to. Like, what was that
Yeah.
shift? And then also then the bigger shift to actually starting your like clothing line to help me our moms, women that are listening think like, oh, I could actually do this too. And
Yeah.
I think that would be very beneficial.
Yeah. Just start. Like it's scary. And I think as soon as you tell yourself you can't, I try to really think about like what I say. Like if I label myself as I am not this, I've already told myself I'm not that. So I feel like to embracing the tiny, tiny baby steps, think about building those bricks where, when you want to start something new, I think it's easy to want to get to that end goal as quick as possible, but realizing that like every day you're building a brick or a part of that brick. And so I started on my kitchen table. I had a sewing machine. And so actually what I started my small business with is not at all what it is now, but it's those little spiral moments that I needed to like gain that momentum and that confidence. So I always say I went to Google University. When I initially started, I Googled everything. And now with like there's so much more. I mean, this was in 2014. So now the internet's just like explosive to where you're going to find videos. But just starting and being okay with starting small and growing when you need to. So like I said, I started on my kitchen table with my sewing machine. I would go to Joann Fabrics. I would make bibs and I would sell them to family and friends. And I remember having family and friends that were like, hey, can you make me like more of these? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just make a website. It's just going to be for family and friends. And it all just kind of spiraled into then doing graphic tees for kids and then it being moms. So embracing the small steps, embracing the small wins, but also not giving up when you fail, because I can tell you right now, I've probably had more moments of failure, small failures, but also some big failures, more so than those big, huge, yes, like I'm crushing it moments. And I think that even I've had friends in the small business world, and it's easy to give up when you have those moments of failure. You're going to have them. That's a part of the growth process. And I think you really have to analyze when I fail or when I have a speed bump, what does that make me do? Do I just shut down and give up and say I'm not capable of this? Or do I take that as like, okay, I can change this and that. And now I know, and I can just elevate everything from here. So that's kind of been
So,
my,
yeah. So well said, Amber. I mean, I feel like you take the words right out of my mouth. I think that everything you just said is so important because we see from the outside what can look like, oh, this person's super successful or this or that. But what
yeah,
is it taking in that day to day? I'm the same way. I've been training for 20 years. I've been running this online business, now moving into the studio space, right? All of that, and it comes with its successes and it comes with its failures. And I always tell my kids this, and I'm sure you do the same. When my kids will complain about something or they feel like they didn't do good at whatever, I'm like, what do you learn more from? Your successes or your failures, and they're like,
absolutely.
okay, mom, I know, you know what I mean? And we have to
Yeah.
remind ourselves that. And I feel like so much what you said too, kind of helped to shift us into talking about mindset and movement is actually really applicable to our health and to our life because so many times I hear from women, moms or not, it doesn't matter that like they might try something for a short period of time, like, well, it doesn't work for me, or I'm a failure, and this and that. And it's like, yeah, but are we looking at it in the right perspective? Are we giving ourselves enough grace? Are we giving ourselves enough time to try whatever it is? So,
Yep.
Amber, let's talk about
Absolutely.
what shifted for you. I know it was after your third, right? That you felt like, gosh, I really had this massive shift in my mindset when it came to movement. And I'm going to preach this from the mountaintops. So go for it, girl.
Kind of ties in with the business. If you're an entrepreneur out there, you know that like you don't have a 9 to 5, you have a 9 to 9, like the next day kind of thing. And I ran myself into the ground physically and mentally. So after each kid, trying to manage a business and a house and a newborn and just me as like an individual person, my health was like rock bottom. I ended up going a different route. I went to see a functional medicine doctor. before I had my third baby, because I knew I have a lot of things going on and I have to get my health in check, because if I'm not okay, I can't be a good mom if I'm not okay. So, um, I was seeing a functional medicine doctor kind of through my third pregnancy, and I knew I had to make changes after I had her, one of which was adding movement into my daily lifestyle, whether it was a walk, whether it was stretching, whether it was cycling, whatever that might be. So my problem with that was that I had spent 32 some years of my life hating movement. It was something that honestly I did for all of the wrong reasons. It was because of the number on the scale. It was because the size of my pants. I never looked at movement as something that was other than like this physical outward appearance thing. So after I had Harlow, my third, kind of the world shut down. That's when COVID happened. And I was like, oh no, how am I going to make this work? Everybody was talking about the Peloton bike. Okay. And I had hated cycling before this. I was like, I hate cycling classes. I'm not an indoor cyclist is what I told myself. I already told myself I did not like it. So my husband laughed when I said I wanted a Peloton. We ordered it. I got on the bike, I clipped on, and for lack of more words, like I never looked back. It was something that for me, I realized I had to find the form of movement that moved me in ways more than just my body. Like it had to move my heart and it had to make me want to get back into it. And so I got a Peloton and I found the instructors that they made me want to be better physically, mentally, emotionally. So Cody, Kendall, like they were so fun. So I became obsessed with the Peloton. I was riding every single day. And I just started to see initially when I got the bike, it was more so because I gained like 65 pounds when I'm pregnant. I have some really severe, like when I remember looking at myself in the mirror after I had Harlow and I'm like picking myself apart physically when I have this beautiful, perfect little baby girl that I like grew in my body, but I'm still like pulling myself apart that I don't look how I did before I had her. So initially when I started writing, it was more so like, I want to lose weight. And then there was this shift internally that unlocked and I started to feel stronger. And I started to see how mentally I had more clarity. And those 45 minutes on that bike were my time where I was me and I was becoming better for not just me, but for my kids. I loved that my kids could see me work out. They could see me ride. And, even some days, like still like my 7-year-old will hop on the bike and he's just like, look, mom, like I'm riding the bike. And so, yeah, I feel like there was this internal shift where I started to value moving my body for more than anything that was just physical. It was the strength, it was the mental, it was all of these pieces put together that made me feel like me again. Like it made me feel like a better version of myself pre-kids, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, question around this, did you then notice a positive shift in your body physically because you
Absolutely.
shifted the mindsets? Yeah.
Yes, I think because I was less focused on how many calories I burned, which I'm not going to lie, I don't wear my Apple Watch anymore. I don't weigh myself because what I noticed was that I valued my movement based on the numbers. And, during that movement, I'm like, man, I'm working really hard and I'm like, I feel like I'm giving it my all. But then I would look at the stats and I'd look at my watch and I'm like, oh my gosh, Amber, you only burned X amount of calories. You need to go do something else. And for me, that was toxic. Like I know some people with their watches, it helps them. But for me, I based my like effectiveness and my worth on numbers that probably aren't even completely accurate on my watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and it was one of those things where as soon as I started to shift how I felt and I got on the bike for reasons of, I need this more so for my mental health, that is when I even felt like I got this glow about me in a different way. And even people would say that, like, you just have a glow. And it was just embracing, I think, my body postpartum. It took me 2.5 years to get down to a point where I felt, and I don't even like comparing it to this because I don't think it's about fitting back into your pants or being a certain number on the scale. But I always see postpartum women like just beat themselves up within the month of having a baby. And for me, it was to give yourself grace and time. It took 2.5 years to feel like I was really confident with who I was physically, mentally, and emotionally after having my third.
Oh, absolutely. And we're preaching that all the time with our pre and postnatal moms. And I wanted to bring up something that you said, because you mentioned about how you gained like 65 pounds during pregnancy. And just again, for any expecting moms listening, or any of you who may be expecting to get in the future, that is not uncommon. I
Yeah.
actually see that a lot. I do not love the weight conversation during pregnancy, especially, here's the side notes. The bullets on the side are, if you are sleeping well, you're nourishing your body well, you are getting in some just regular moderate movement, you're well hydrated, you're being kind to your body. When you're doing the healthy things in life and yet you are gaining, say, 50, 60 pounds during pregnancy and everything is going fine from a medical perspective, that's okay. That is okay. I just see so many women put so much pressure on themselves, be like, oh my gosh, I've gained all this weight. And we have got to start to shift this, because I've had three babies. Amber, you've had three babies. I've worked with thousands of moms in my 20 years of training. And I can tell you that it's going to vary. Some women are only going to gain 20 pounds in pregnancy, and other women are going to gain 60 every single pregnancy. And that is what that woman's body needs in order to have the nourishment and the fat stores and all of that for healthy growth of baby. So we have to remind ourselves, and of course, I know we all know this, but from a mindset perspective of, okay, we are growing this human body, and that's just where my body needs to be. I'll tell you, with all of my pregnancies, I gained a different weight with each one of them, but to the day I delivered, I weighed the exact same. Like I weighed
Okay,
the
yeah.
exact same, because that was where my body needed to be. So it wouldn't have mattered, and so I don't like to see moms beat themselves up when they're like, oh, I'm gaining this weight, right? All the things. So when we can set that aside and focus on the things that we're doing, the healthy habits we're creating, then here's the deal. Postpartum, and you're still doing your healthy habits, that weight will come off eventually. Some women will say, I lose it all with breastfeeding. Others will be like, oh my gosh, I don't lose much at all with breastfeeding.
That
And
was
we
me.
have to
I
stop
never did.
we have to stop comparing ourselves to each other in that sense, because everyone's bodies are different. And it comes down to so many things, such as hormones and gut health and just your body. Your body's like, I need this weight to these fat stores so that I can create milk for your baby. And we just got to remind ourselves of that, ladies. Like, I just cannot stress it enough. I mean, I have these conversations all the time in my Nocta Fitness prenatal group, in my core rehab group with like postpartum and beyond moms. And just remember, to everyone listening, when we're talking postpartum, it means basically all moms who've ever had a
Yep.
baby. You are
Yep.
postpartum.
And I think partly for me, what was difficult is the aspect of social media. Social media was around with my first, but now you go on there, and I think it's really hard to scroll and to see, again, we're all so different. And going on there, and that comparison game hits in where it's like, you just kind of, I feel like I just have to sometimes like take my phone and be like, that's not serving me right now. And
Yeah,
like, I got to
absolutely.
sometimes put on the blinders and realize that like every single mom, and, the thing with social media is, sometimes it is very, we pick and choose what we post. I think all of us have struggles and all of us have things going on behind the scenes, but one of the things is you can choose exactly what you're showing people. So I always like to remind myself that it's not always reality on social media. So when I get on there and I'm comparing myself and, X, Y, and Z, it sometimes can make things even more sticky, especially when you're in that vulnerable position after having,
Yeah.
again, you made a human. It's a magical, beautiful thing that our bodies can do that. So Yeah.
Yeah, well, and we know with social media, I mean, I have, two daughters and one's a teen, one's a preteen, and we now know research shows that social media really is detrimental, especially to girls' health. I'm sure I don't know the research off the top of my head. I'm sure it's just as bad for boys in many aspects, but girls tend to gravitate to social media more, right? That's just a thing. And we know it's bad. We know it's bad for them. I actually refuse to let my children have social media. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think any kids should have social media. So any moms listening, if you need someone to back you up, I have your back on that. I
I'm,
do
I'm
not
with you
allow my
there. I
kids
know.
to have social media. And it actually blows my mind. And I'm sure there's some moms listening that know me and I know them. And I'm not judging. I'm going to be just complete. I'm not judging anyone who allows their children to have social media. That is your choice. That is your family's choice. But for me personally and in my family, because I mean, I've been on social media for a long time. It, I don't love it. It's not healthy for me. You guys that follow me, we don't post a lot on social media because it's not where I want to be spending my time. I want to spend my time improving my well-being, my family's well-being, and doing things that are going to better the people that I can help. And that's creating programming. That's teaching them. That's doing those things, not just showing up on social media for whatever reason it might be. Like I like to educate and teach. And I think when we can find our, like from that perspective, that helps me as a business owner anyway. But kind of back to like social
And
media
that's
for kids. We
partly
know it's
why
bad
I'm
for kids. So it's
yeah.
got to be bad for us as adults. Like it sucks you in and it can just spit you out. It wastes so much time. And I preach this all the time of like, when I hear women who say, I don't have enough time to do my movement practice, I'm like BS on that because guaranteed you're spending at least 10 minutes a day on social media. I do it. I find myself getting lost in there and I'm like, put the phone
Yes.
away. It's a waste of my life. And so it is one of those things that I'm like, no, everyone has time to work out and move their body in a very nourishing way, even if you only have 10 to 15 minutes a day, right? And if you have more, great. But anyway, well, I'll get off my high horse on
And
on
that's
that.
partly
But
why I want to pivot is the social media part for me over since, I started in 2014 till now. I'm not going to lie, the social media portion for me, it sometimes feels like you're drowning. And I feel like I've lost really valuable time with my family because, as a business owner, sometimes you feel like you're swimming upstream on social media where you're needing to do lives and reels and there's Pinterest and there's Facebook. And so that's one of the huge reasons for me. I'm so excited about my pivot into a studio is to physically be with people and less behind a screen. I get to actually like be like, get over here and give me a hug kind of thing, rather than like, I love my community online. And I wouldn't be where I am without those moms that have literally, many of which have been with me since I launched. But the social media part for me mentally is just, it's a lot. It's a lot.
it is. I'm with you 100%. That is exactly why I'm opening a studio too. I am ready to get back. I mean, and here's the thing. I've homeschooled my kids for,
Yeah.
for on and off for the last how many years. And I'm so grateful for that. And that is the one thing, and you recognize that too, is having a business that you can work out of your home when you're raising your kids is amazing. I wouldn't change it for the world. Absolutely not. My kids are at this stage now for me where I'm like, it's time. And it's something that, I mean, I have dreamed of doing this myself for like ever and ever. And it's time to do it because it is time to get back in with more people and that in person. And I feel like COVID kind of like it took away all of that for so many
Yeah.
people that it really is like, oh, all the online stuff is amazing. And can we be so grateful for all this technology, for Zoom, for all the social media? Like, absolutely. Can we be grateful for it, but also not want to live on it? Yes.
I'm burnt out. I'm like, oh, I need people. I need like face to face. So yeah.
Okay, so Amber, I have a question, kind of back into our mindset shift. What's what words of wisdom, advice do you have for women who are still kind of feeling with that they're dealing with this, like, I've got to count my calories, I've got to make sure I'm doing this amount of exercise or all this, like they're still kind of stuck in that, maybe they're recognizing like I'm ready for this shift of being, I always call it like doing more nourishing movement for your body, right? Because that's what it should be. Food should be nourishing, movement should be nourishing. What what advice do you have for women that are still feeling like they're kind of stuck and they're like, I'm having a hard time getting into that mindset?
I think I tried to do a lot of things that I just didn't love in the first place. For example, running, not my vibe. My husband runs marathons. Like I know for me, that's just not what fuels my soul. Trying a lot of different things. And for me, I had to find something that was fun. Which is why like my studio, I'm like, I want clients that really don't like movement and they come in here and they're like, wow, I'm mind blown. I didn't realize that moving my body could be more than just, counting my calories or making sure my bicep is flexing, that kind of thing. Um, Try all sorts of things and reprioritize your time. When you talked about, I know that sometimes like I say I don't have time, but then I open up my phone and I see that I spent 4 hours on social media, just reprioritizing. And even like you said, 10 minutes a day. And that was something I had to do was like, I'm going to take 10 minutes today to go on a power walk. And do I love power walking? Not much, but when I put music in, it fuels me and I'm pumping my arms to the beat of the music. For me, that just transitioned walking into something that I enjoy. I know that I love music. I know that I love things that are beat and rhythm based. It was truly for me finding things that I loved and knowing that there are certain activities that I don't jump up and down and enjoy for, but you put me on a Lagree machine and like that was the other kind of that was the other workout that I started to doing and it just completely changed my focus on what movement is. It's very slow. You activate slow twitch muscles, but what I loved about Lagree is that, as moms, how are we all day long? We're like, we got this and we got that and we need to do this and we need this and like we're just boom 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 go go go. Lagree was the one part of my day where I was encouraged and forced for 45 minutes to slow down. The slower the better. So that unlocked something in me that was like, this is the one part of my day where I get to truly, and it makes it better when you slow down. And I fell in love with it. I just think for so many years, I just tried to do so many things that I didn't love and I didn't enjoy. And so finding all different types of movement, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's a power walk, maybe it's Pilates or, I don't know. I just think you really have to love what you do and really feel what it does for you aside from anything that's physical. Like, how do you feel mentally after you go on a power walk? Do you feel invigorated? Do you feel strong? I stopped weighing myself. I stopped wearing my watch. I kind of would ask myself when I was moving my body, what am I saying to myself when I'm doing this? And I just analyzed like these tools that I thought were helping me, like my watch. How's it making me feel when I'm moving my body? Is it actually fueling me and propelling me forward? Or is it something that's making me base my value off of numbers? I know I'm going off on little tangents here, but
No, you're
I
great.
look inward and ask a lot of questions to myself and really analyze how do I feel when I'm doing X, Y, and Z.
No, I love it. And I'll say too, the Apple Watches, you guys, like I've had clients, I ask them to take it off when I'm training them because it's distracting them. And if you're distracted every couple minutes with a text, with a call, you're not connecting with your body. You're living all just up in your ego brain in your head. And in order to really enhance your health and your physical well-being, your mental well-being, you have to learn to connect with our body. Like we talk about the mental health, but mental is connecting with our body as well. It's grounding within ourselves. And I love how, it's asking yourself the questions. I love that you said that because that's something in my programs I'm always telling women is like, even if you're not feeling what I'm coaching you to learn or feel in your body, I want you to start visualizing it. I want you to start almost like pretending like you're doing what you want to be doing and you're seeing yourself go where you want to go because that's actually going to get you there faster. And I just think there's such untapped in fitness, or we need to shift the way the way fitness is done. I felt like this for I mean, most of my career because I started my career because of pain, and that's a big one, you know, for me that I've always done is like, how can I help women in particular be able to do the movement and movement in life? Because if we start to lose our mobility, then our health starts to decline with us too. And I know that can sound crazy to, you know, even women in their 30s listening to this or having this conversation. But again, when I do my private health coaching, it's mostly women in their mid 30s because their bodies are really starting to wreak havoc on them. And I'm like, gosh, we can't, like, if our bodies are really hurting us in our 30s, then what happens in our 40s and our 50s and our 60s and so on, right? So it's like it's never too early or too late to start to shift our perspective on our movement, on us connecting with our body. I always challenge everybody, like, wherever you are today, even if you feel like you have a good relationship, a good connection with your body, like it can always be better. We're on this journey. It's not an end goal. It is truly, truly a journey, right, Emma?
And I think, you know, with the time thing, something I also started to do was I love music. Music really, that's like my studio is going to be very, very music driven, beat based, fun. But thinking of like when you think workout, I think sometimes we think it has to be like at a gym with weights and we're like pumping iron. I started to tweak what I thought of movement and like how it fueled me with like sometimes I'd turn the music on and while I was making like dinner, my kids and I are having a dance party and it was fun. I was, you know, getting my heart rate up, we're dancing, we're bonding. Or when I was doing, you know, a 15-minute type workout, I would get little 1 pound weights and like my 7-year-old, he enjoys like doing it with me. So I think just even tweaking like your mindset on what does that mean to move your body and work out, because it can be so many different things that you oftentimes can include your kids in on. And that just makes it more fun, I think. And sometimes I'm like, all right, this would have been easier if I did it by myself. But I
Yeah,
love to the aspect of your kids seeing you move and truly love that connection that you've made with your body inside and out. I like to say from within, like something deeper from within. It's a beautiful thing. And I feel like it shows your kids. I feel like I grew up in, you know, movement was something that it was always just programmed in my mind that you did it for these reasons. It's to be thin, it's to weigh this, it's to fit in the trending pants. And so I like showing my kids that for me, mommy does it because it makes me feel good inside and out. Like
yeah.
there's something inside of me that set a flame when I get on my bike and I clip in. And I've done something that's challenging and like I just think that's a beautiful thing to then incorporate your kids into that mindset shift of what moving your body means.
Absolutely. You said that so well. It is. I love when we get pictures moms will send us with their doing their core rehab or whatever, and their little ones work like with them, or they'll say
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, my little one is like, did you do Erica's workouts today or whatever it is? And I'm like, it just melts my heart because it to me the power in that it's not about the workouts themselves. It's what it is helping you to do, right? It's you feeling better, feeling stronger, getting rid of the pain or dysfunction or whatever it is. And I just, like I said, it's one of the cutest, like always makes me so happy when I see that from our moms because it's just the power that there is within that is more than many maybe even realize in that moment because it's not like you said the actual working out itself, it's what it's giving you, what it's doing for you, the good you know, the good habits you're setting up for your kiddos. So awesome. Well, Amber, it's been so great to chat with you. Do you have any last things that you want to share with everyone listening?
Give yourself grace. Like, mom is you're crushing it. I know days like I'm getting emotional. My kids are back to school. Ooh, I know there's moments where I'm like, I just feel like I can't keep it together. Um, and I think grace is something that like when anyone asks me like postpartum, just how I've gone from, you know, Y to Z or how I've shifted, it's grace. It is acknowledging that there's going to be days where you're like, this is a lot and I'm maybe not doing great. I always like to say you're doing a great job today. Your best is going to look different every single day, and give yourself grace on the days where your best is 40%, and give yourselves the giant biggest hug when your days are 100%. So yeah, it got emotional there, but it's hard
I
being
love
mom and just trying to juggle all of the things. So that's my word for myself is grace. Like grace in all that you do, whether that's packing your kids lunch, whether that's your workout that day, whether it's forgetting that permission form that you were supposed to do yesterday. Grace. Like give yourself lots of grace.
Oh, so well said. Such great advice, Amber. I love it. Will you share with everyone where they can reach out to you, find out more about you, and then remind us where you're located for your studio when it
I'm
and
in
you
Columbus, Ohio.
okay.
So I'm actually like Dublin, Plain City area. So it's kind of a suburb outside of Columbus, but my studio is As You Are, Cycle and Lagree. And I have an Instagram. I'm the person that runs all of my social media accounts. So if you reach out to me, it's going to be me, not like a robot responding to those things. And then my email is hello@asyouare-fitness.com. And you're welcome to reach out with any questions. I'm happy to help.
Awesome.
So
Well,
yeah,
thank you so much, Amber. What's your Instagram for your clothing line as well?
it is Declan and Crew, Declan and Crew. So it's my two boys' names.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amber. It was so great to chat
Thank
with
you.
you today.
Thanks.